Hello and welcome to 2020's April Fool's Special. If you're only curious about the jokes and the clue breakdown, watch the first 4 minutes of the introduction and continue around 154 for the explanations. The large section in between will feature play-by-play commentary, route theories, and behind-the-scenes details. The file name will be explained with a clip at the end, and the original video description is also featured below. So what is this all about? Any percent in Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning has seen a decent amount of activity as of late, mostly due to a new runner entering the scene, and there's also been routing discussions about the early discovery choke, which could utilize the Fateless glitch. As of late, I've stumbled upon an old route theory I had, and I took a closer look at that the weekend before April 1st, decided to optimize it. I managed to get an estimate of 155-ish based on a segmented rough test on March 31st, and that was quite interesting to see. How could I turn this concept into a joke submission? And the result of that was any percent no blacksmithing, since this route idea actually did not utilize blacksmithing at all. Alright, so then I thought, okay, sub 215 is still a respectable time, and the 214.41.14 would have been the date reference of April 1st in various formats, I guess. So that was like my target time for the finishing thing. Okay, I did not cheat in this run, nor did I try to make fun of runners or the moderators of the leaderboards. This was simply intended to be a reveal of an interesting route approach disguised as a challenge category. So this is why I titled it any percent no DLC, no blacksmithing. And also not to raise too much suspicion about its true potential. To go back to the actual route action happening right now. We're not choosing Almain as our starting race, instead we're going with Dogalfar. That is mostly because it gives us a +1 to sage crafting and allows us to skip a lore stone in the early section. I'm also using a different type of movement here. Instead of having to turn the camera 180, I'm just walking sideways. That was also a reference to some older run I've watched, and I think it's faster ideally to do that, but you have more control or confirmation about what you're doing, where you are at, and so on. So that's based on preference again. Low Sulfur is also having +1 sage crafting as a race bonus, so if you prefer that race or one of its patron gods, that could be viable for this route. The stealth is pretty nice from Dogalfar in my opinion, but we're only using it in the discovery section really. The category so far, or the Alistair Tower section, was quite decent. I'm not going with War, obviously, since that's not an option for any of the alpha races. None may be faster, but maybe something like Balin or another god could also be useful. I think it does not matter too much. I managed to get the troll cutscene skip, but I screwed up the timing of the spell a little. Otherwise still, like, okay recovery from the fight. This is also like Fateless setup, so we're fast traveling to Alistair Tower to prevent Out of the Darkness from finishing and Agarth triggering. We'll do that fight later when we have better weapons and higher damage output. And I kind of foreshadowed it already. We are not doing blacksmithing, and instead sagecrafting will be our method of obtaining extra damage output. And that is a quite interesting approach from how you prepare. And our discovery section will end in level 6 instead of level 5, because it's beneficial for equipping items and also for setting Hexidam to a higher level to increase the rewards we're getting. Throughout the run, you may see throwbacks to older routes, especially if you have been around for a decent amount of time. That could be quite fancy. The execution here is not optimal. I didn't have much time to record this, so I just had like an estimate on which potential this route had, and I had a target time when I wanted to finish, and I had an idea of how to fill it up. But this was more or less a no reset run, and in fact I did 2 other attempts before that, and both of them soft locked in very unfortunate ways. But I'll explain that when I go there. So this is relatively standard. We are skipping out on most lore stones early on. And first of all, we don't have any Agarth conversation in Ardensat. So it wouldn't be worth it to go there anyway. But it's also slower because we can skip running to the entrance of the hut and instead fast travel back later. So even if you're not on Fateless Glitch, you may want to delay that conversation inside. We're skipping the lore stone near Dyden Hill. That makes it slightly faster to take this route over the bridge. But you're at the mercy of this guy, Thaddeus Oln, not killing the boggart. Otherwise it's hard to roll past him and skip the convo, but it's still possible. It's just more tedious, but you can just take the jump point route anyway. That's no problem.
So, I don't want when such a time.
Bit sloppy menuing, and then I was kind of holding up, but the key didn't register. And then I was just standing there next to him and not doing anything. But yeah, there are a few hiccups here and there. The overall execution was okay for most parts. I'll mention the bigger mistakes later when I get there. So we are level 1 by now. Hill gave us a level up. This lore stone is very easy to grab on the way, so it barely wastes any time, and it's actually bringing us closer to level 2. We want to hit level 2 only at the lore stone before Aiden.
He is your legend of might and eminence. Come, listen to a tale of Issa and On, the God Storm, the Withering War.
So 10:38 is an okay time to enter it. I didn't have any major hiccups. So this lore stone is fairly slow to get, but its worth carries over into a higher level, meaning the relative XP benefit of it is higher than usual.
And they lit the forest with their fires, and then split it with their
This is a very early level up. We do it right now because it doesn't really matter when we do it. Oh my god, I screwed up my rolling direction there. And yeah, we want to go to Calorexer Sword early because we do need some gold for the early shopping trips. And it's also faster to go from Thames Wagon back to Lucky Mine instead of heading on to Melaglir. But yeah, for now, we're going to Helmgard Keep instead of Korgenhold. That is maybe the bigger route change at the early section. It is faster to go to Korgenhold technically, if you're just counting the mix of Discovery section and return to the Windstone later. But this shopping trip will actually make use of Helmgard Keep. So this is why I wanted to discover that instead of Korgenhold. And we'll also put the Helmgard Keep place to good use later on. But that's like a thing based on the route, really. It's not something every any percent route should do. A lot of the discovery section is normal and not out of the ordinary, but there will be a few things added in between. So this is why it loses about maybe 4 to 5 minutes compared to an optimized other Fateless 6 route. But yeah, that will pay off later, so you'll see what's happening when we get there. But this is what I talked about. It's really convenient to just fetch the discovery of Thames Wagon, turn around, and then get teleported further towards Melaglir. So one weird effect of it is kind of the reason why we went to, and yeah, wolves here are pretty annoying. So it's easy to grab a lore stone after Korgenhold, which would be very efficient here as well to reach level 3 without losing some time. But choosing Dokalfar instead of Almain for this route didn't matter. So that's just what we stuck with. But yeah, with a slight adjustment of experience, you can make any race viable. And every race has access to none as the patron god for the XP bonus. But it shouldn't really impact much. So as a recap, we will hit level 3 when we discover Moon Camp, but we don't have it as of now, so this is why we leveled up relatively early to get that out of the way. And that allows me now to... That was a bit of a preemptive dodge. I misjudged the movement occurring in the back of it, and I thought it was the triple step attack. But yeah, I just had to deal with the ending leg of the roll, and that made me vulnerable for the overhead attack of the Mergen. Bit of sloppy menuing. So with the 2 points invested into it and the 1 point race bonus, we had Sagecraft level 3 to obtain Calyrex. Now we're going back to Tam's Wagon for the Melaclear trip, but this is where we actually start doing things differently. I only intended to sell Calyrex here, but I don't really need any of the other items, so if you prefer a cleaner inventory, maybe it's worth it to sell more stuff right away.
From the dark of north he came.
So yeah, this is a decently fast lore stone to get, and it's faster than some of the other lore stones that would be available, like the one between the walls and Telarain.
Exultingly, they crowned him king.
Also the one in front of Edessa. But yeah, I won't go over every single lore stone here. You've noticed me buying lockpicks. Originally, I was getting the finesse chest, but since I have to sell Calyrex anyway, this was just a decent thing, and this gives me more chances for the lockpicking thing. You're forcing a hard lock here, and usually having 17 lockpicks is plenty. But in this case, yeah, we're also getting to play even more minigames. So what I did there was I also forced the other lock. This is an average lock this time. So it's both dispelled, or like enchanted with a ward, and a lock. And we're doing that to get 4 gems in particular, but there are 2 more gems in there that we'll use for selling. But this is based on a new gold route. The gold route changes are the biggest impact since it allows us to have access to better inventory, better equipment and things early on. And I think the route benefits a lot from that, because it was usually limited with what you could do, and any percent as a whole at the end revolves around not becoming under-leveled to maintain good damage output. So you're usually chasing experience, and that's taking a lot of time. And getting extra experience means killing extra monsters, and that means you'd also need like good damage output to kill the monsters efficiently. And this is just more of the discovery section. So the Morkan gems, or just like a quick detour to obtain them. Then there will be like one shopping trip relatively soon. Then there will be the end of the discovery section, and then the second shopping trip. And that was a bit sloppy, not meshing F there.
They wake, they work, they worry.
So how does having extra gold help us with our problem? It's fairly simple. Shards are very expensive, and I don't quite know the sum of all of the shards you're buying, but it's about 150,000 gold, so that is more than the previous routes used throughout the whole run, and we're doing that like in the first 35 minutes of the run.
We've been here for an eternity.
And we're also buying a lot of other items. I chose to go with a discovery fast travel here instead of a jail warp, because it doesn't rely on like getting lucky with enemy aggro in order to save time, and we don't need to get an extra lore stone in the sheet for, I don't know, 1 to 2 seconds out of the way. I did force the second lock in the chest place in the house in Melaclear, so I will have to get St. Edric's mission later on. If you handpick it, you get the XP reward for picking the lock, and then you can skip that. That makes the difference whether you end with 20 bonus XP at level 5 before finishing the Fateless state, or whether you end with 0 extra XP. So it's a tight XP route to optimize the use of Fateless glitch.
From the naked dirt spring the majestics,
A bit of
the firstborn of
weird
the wilds
pathing
of
there.
Ashara. Around them, they heard the song of splendor of a once and future summer, and they responded, and the earth moved. The carver shaped.
So
the
what else do I
architect
use the
built,
gold on?
and the shaper composed.
We're buying weapons, 2 bows, and chakrams.
The god
I'm also buying my other items. So for each like place for the equipment, I have 1 item. I'm delaying the chest piece until Melsenshire, and I'll also buy accessories. But yeah, this is the first shopping trip after Ural Tusk.
Need to do it.
So what we did there was we sold all of the gems and then bought back a few of them.
Oh, hello, good day.
That is used for a glitch here. We're buying the gems that we already have in our inventory to make it stack. And then we abuse the buyback mechanic of merchants, so they buy back from the for the same price that they sold it to you, as long as you don't leave the window of it. So if you don't cancel anything. But since it's stacked with my gems, I was able to sell the gem at the price you'd usually sell it for, and that gave me like more than 50,000 gold just for that. And we used that money to apply the same glitch again here. And so we're crafting 3 gems. 3 armor gems and 1 utility gem. And that put us to 342,000, which is quite a significant amount. We're buying shards from Emer and Rathir. And this is also a convenient place to route in the Aten potions, because we want to be here during daytime to get a good like encounter with him, so he's downstairs and not upstairs.
You have come.
A lot of the time of day routing is very weird, and what we're doing now is also to adjust time of day, but it's less like the actual time of hours, it's the time, like the amount of days. So we're advancing the in-game time by 6 days to make the Rathier merchant restock all of his shards, which takes 6 days, surprisingly enough, but yeah, it's a bit strange. So I wanted St. Edric's mission for the bonus XP for forcing both locks, and then Warm Lodge is routed into the route by default because it's really fast experience and we don't need much. So yeah, the 4 gems that I bought back lost the stolen property after I sold them to a fence and bought them back, which is the main reason why we go to Mooncamp there. It's also possible to combine it with the Star Camp, but then I can't do the shopping trip without like fast traveling away again. And I wanted to combine the Star Camp trip with the sleeping portion, so I don't have to sleep somewhere else. And that just ended up working out better. So we're heading to Cairnirlim,
But not like the others.
and then back out to the tier to finish that portion. So this is just the final part of the discovery section. We're still Fateless though, so that's something to keep in mind.
Come closer, little curiosity.
So the 4 gems I bought back in Mooncamp were possible to be sold to any merchant, and then I'm selling it to the Ymir gem and shard guy. That is kind of like the base idea on how to get your first set of money, and then you use that to sell more expensive gems for higher prices. So if I could just lend 100,000 gold at the beginning of the game and just have to pay it back later, I'd save a minute, but since that's not an option, I'll have to go like with this route approach if I want to get a lot of money early on. But this type of investment is actually paying off with the route, and that's kind of an interesting approach because we used those in some of the impromptu challenge races, and if you optimize it, it actually becomes quite viable due to allowing you to skip so much afterwards. And I only bought shards and lockpicks earlier, but there will be more to come, so... Well, yeah, I also bought the XP potions. So you can use that for Narsh, for example. And that also means that you have decent equipment before the first quest and don't have to worry about slow attack animations from, I don't know, whatever items you pick up or whatever equipment you go with. I also bought 2 mana potions, or 10 in this one maybe. It doesn't matter for the total amount of money, like I have maybe 10 to 20k to spare. But it's still routed fairly tight, so you can't make mistakes with the menuing or else you may get screwed. buying less in terms of shards has the use of allowing you to mash through things later. So this is the end of the shopping trip, and we barely hit level 5 there. Sorry, I meant the end of the discovery portion, beginning of the shopping trip. And this is why we wanted the Helm Guard. That gives us access to this merchant, and we're buying a bunch of items here.
You didn't.
First of all, we're buying Azerite chakrams, and then the whole equipment portion besides the chest portion.
Again when we're better stocked. Greetings.
And since we've restocked the other merchants, we can go back there and buy what they have. And yeah, now I'm back to a bit more than 200k. So after buying the next couple of items, I'll be a bit above 100k-ish.
Come again. Looking for Jim.
Yeah, like about 120k. Here we can just mash through. This is the reason why I did not level up beforehand. Otherwise, it would give me really weird results. The order in which I craft things here is also important, so if you're trying to replicate this, just take your time or pay attention to why things are happening. We also want to socket stuff, I forgot to do that right away, but yeah, I'm just mashing through. And now we are selling our final gems that we crafted. That leaves us with about 320k. And we'll use a lot of that as well. So this is our first accessory that we're buying. And this ends our shopping trip. So now we got our level 5 to 6 reward. And we have all of the equipment that we need for this early 1 hour portion. We can't equip the chakrams now since we don't have Seeker as our destiny. But at least we can equip the longbow at level 6. If you get them lined up properly, you can just use like a set of Shadow Flare there. But I messed that up a little. So now we chose Seeker. After losing aggro, we can equip our items and go back to Star Camp. So this is the end of the discovery section. If you don't screw up as much, you can make it in sub 34 as well. But of course that takes getting used to all of these finicky menuing sections and whatnot. A lot of this is standard again. So now we can obtain Fate. We want to grab an Athene Shrine since it's free on the way. I was trying to route in a Hexidam discovery skip, but it requires losing aggro and that pretty much means killing the mob spawning to the left of this bridge exit. And that didn't really pay off, since it's hard to do during the discovery section when you're still not having your equipment ready to go. And it's wasting time if you're doing it now, so
Return to the hunt.
there may be other categories that utilize it more
Fairly
naturally.
organized, and even the largest clans have never dig this deep.
I didn't quite explain what was happening with the sage crafting portion. We strengthened our shards to only have pristine shards left for the highest quality gems.
What are the TwoL doing here?
And then we crafted a lot of utility gems that give us a 20% damage increase given certain conditions. So we have 10 gems that give us 20% damage increase during daytime. I'm trying to aim for the archers, since they have less armor and die in 2 arrows instead of 3. And you want to like hit the trolls with the close-up shadow flare and kill a certain amount of Tuatha to hit like 265 fate. And you have to take into account that the outside troll is having a lower area level, and I'm also using the XP booster here, which is a bit risky, but it's not super risky. You just need to make sure you're not getting trolled by the troll spawning in a weird way. That was a pretty poor execution though. So with a charge shot and killing another Tuatha underling here,
The Tuatha must be
we get
corrupting the trolls with
the
prism.
remaining fate. Otherwise, if you don't charge shot this one, like just by spamming arrows, you can harpoon into Narsh, but that risks getting like aggro and an instant attack.
Prismir.
But yeah, even with messing up as much as I did, you still have plenty of time. And with plenty of time, I mean less than 5 seconds, but that was like the worst I've messed up with in all the testing, and I've tested this like, multiple times. I did get lucky with Essences of Fate there. But yeah, you get a lot of things that you can grab essences for free. You want to unequip your items here, because the swimming section is coming up.
Now, I'd be on your way.
Maybe this would be like more beneficial to like sell more items early on. When you're selling Calyrex, for example. I did not anticipate to pick up an Elm Buckler there. Otherwise, like where I equipped the Elm Buckler, I would have unequipped the Groot Kite Shield from the intro. You can leave your accessories and weapons equipped to still get the swimming speed increase. So yeah, this stuff is pretty normal as well. It's kind of like an extra discovery job, but it doesn't really matter to do it at this point. The only thing that's different is that you set your area level higher here, meaning you'll actually get fate from killing the enemies at the Delak entrance. And it seems about equal to go through the Hollenstead discovery portion or staying south of it. So if it's free experience, you may as well grab it on the way. And even though you're swimming fairly fast, it's still faster to run on land. But there are a lot of routes that finish within half a second to the ending point here. So don't worry too much about which route you're taking in this Etenmere section. What's important here is how many and which type of Etin are spawning. So if there's 2 Etin and no War Priest,
Welcome to the room. Come with me. In
we'll be a little shy of level 8. So this is like the only reason why we actually buy the mana potions. To be able to just spam things here without equipping.
If you're heading east to the ruins of town, very well.
And this is like intentionally delaying the equipping. And I'm advancing time of day here. And I used to just go to Caer Nerolim 3 times. But that had the chance of being very early when I'm entering Delak, and I didn't want to deal with having less damage output when I'm actually required to fight enemies. So I decided to do that to be in a more consistent 6 AM to 7 AM range when I'm actually entering the dungeon. Or rather 5:30 to 6:30. Now we're just handing in the quest, or rather get forwarded to Ether. It's still not handed in technically. And yeah, we're still not having any armor equipped, which does not save much time for that swimming, but we're taking it. So yeah, if you have the low XP spawn in front of Delak, it's convenient to just kill that. Like a sprite is taking 2 arrow shots here. I was just starting the shoot too early and didn't wait for it to aggro and fly towards me. But yeah, this is consistent if you start using the XP potion early. Otherwise you'll enter Isa at level 7 and lose out on around 300 XP. That isn't a big deal, to be fair, and some people also grab a lore stone in front of Delak and other things. But it's technically free experience you can route in. So that affects the reward for the quest here and the discovery reward. So here we're grabbing the shrines. We're only grabbing the first 3 for convenience sake. And this is where we're leveling up. And I've actually adjusted things, but yeah, now that we've leveled up, we have the requirements, we meet the requirements for these armor items that we've bought, and that are now socketed with all these items. And I didn't mention, I have 15 utility gems in total, 10 for the daytime damage increase, and 5 for 20% against lightly wounded targets, meaning from 100% health to 75% health. So that's allowing you to one-shot more stuff actually. And we have 11 of those socketed in right now,
The theater can show us the whole tapestry of fate.
or equipped rather. We have 13 socketed in and 2 to spare.
Well, most of them.
So this is actually like the issue I was talking about. It's not 6 AM right now, which is very inconvenient to not just one-shot all of these. And I'm still having the weak bow equipped, but now we do have the damage increase, so it's very convenient now. I do have
After all those years of hiding,
Envenomed Edge as my sustained ability on slot 4 right now,
if only
and
one
I have that
last
maxed out. It turns out it's not very useful because we don't want that type of damage sometimes, because it makes the XP rewards inconvenient. I want to get my fate meter filled here, so we can fate shift things in the next room. You can technically start using your XP potion in the previous room with the kobolds already. But if you want to loot things here for Essences of Fate, that was also very sloppy. You want to enter Reckoning mode and get like a crit hit from stealth sneaking on all of them. But if they aren't in a blocking animation, you should be able to one-shot them anyway. So I'm not getting any Essences of Fate from them.
We're
It may
almost
be
there.
simpler
At
to
least as
just
far as I can take you.
not kill any of them. But yeah, since I'm level 9 now, I can equip the Ash Longbow with the socketed things.
I've seen this.
And that one also has a weapon gem inserted,
I'm sorry.
giving it 25
This
extra
is as
piercing
far as I
damage.
can take you.
And yeah, we can just fate shift this guy while still under the effect of our greater experience booster. And since I had to wait here anyway for the looting portion, I decided to use Envenomed Edge. But yeah, in reality, we'll start investing into Arrowstorm early, and then that would give us an extra arrow, which is not even used if you don't screw up the aiming. But it turns out that since we don't need the Envenomed Edge, it's nice to have it as a convenience factor.
The theater of fate. I never thought I'd see it.
And yeah, we would have skilled Arrowstorm later anyway. So since we don't use Envenomed Edge in the current route, it's just better to do that. Depending on which spawns you get and how trustful you are regarding your Shadow Flare targeting abilities, you want to farm more or less Fate there. So I'm usually killing like 4 kobolds, but that also depends on whether they're
I should have brought another
regular
bottle.
kobolds, which are like a higher tier enemy, or the rogues and savages, which give 3 Fateless.
No, put your... The death note.
So yeah, this was about average.
Well, this looks like some fun.
I'm still trying to figure out a way how to speed up the Agarth movement.
Just a
Who are
moment.
you?
I'm beginning after all. No? Be on your way.
Weak. Mean. Good luck.
And yeah, since I had an issue with lack of damage early on and not being able to kill the kobolds conveniently, the shrine timer is lower than I'd like it to be. yeah, usually you can just fate shift those while being on the timer. Still no extra essences of fate. But yeah, if you're level 10, you can kill this Etin, for example, to get some extra experience. Because you can get a lot more experience from these enemies as well. Like if you, the final Etin fate shift after the jump point can also contain like an extra Etin spawn or a war priest.
What do you mean? Ah, the castle. This tells. Damn it. The main entrance. Good luck.
Okay. Not much out of the ordinary here. Just trying to escort Agarth. Killing stuff in the way. His pathing got messed up as usual, but I was just expecting it to go worse than it actually did. That was just my lack of routine and experience with the route. But sometimes he is really getting stuck.
Good luck.
The mountain god awaits.
Sometimes it's hard to see what's going on here if there's like sun shining through a window. I messed up my targeting there. Otherwise you can just run through and loot him on the go. I decided to skip the Barghest. That was a bit sloppy since I missed that one guard and then struggled to get the guards that are unkillable because the health bar doesn't drop like to 0 when they're still in the sitting animation while getting up. And yeah, that would have also been more convenient had I had the extra arrow.
If you would, we should be able to get out this way.
So now is the second trip to Isa, but we are not grabbing shrines though.
The court of summer will see me soon, I'm certain. Ah.
Don't start trouble.
High King Tatarian is waiting for. Please place the codex before him.
Gadfly, you speak.
Oh, I'm in. You need to be on your way.
Speak. Good thing you. I don't.
More talking happening. And now we're going back to Emera, this time not for shard shopping.
Just give me a straight answer.
Relax.
The Noble's Band of Growth gives us 6% experience bonus.
You should be just the general looking.
And you want to equip that right now. So it's applying for as long as possible. Now we're going to Overlook Camp.
You are.
So we did not discover Saltwell Caverns early. We were able to hit level 5 conveniently without that during the discovery portion as the level 6 level up preparation. And it saves a bit of time to do it now, since we don't have any shrine timers running. And it's just faster from the position you have while talking to Octien, as opposed to having to run from the discovery point past the fast travel point, past the conversation point. So we're hitting level 11 now. You can technically get lucky in Delag and get a lot of experience from that. That puts this place to level 11. It's giving you a bit extra experience from the kills and the quest reward, but it doesn't make a significant change in the big picture. Now we're talking to youths. Fate shift them. We're not using any potion here. And that was actually interesting because they ran towards us as opposed to turning around. That is a very rare occurrence. So we're just mashing through the conversation. Nothing really significant happening. It's convenient to kill these enemies on the way out. That way you won't have any enemy aggro and can fast travel instantaneously. So we're heading to Ural Tusk now.
Surely it lies and take the windstones are
continue with this quest. This was mostly for time of day routing. It's still like daytime for now because we were so early with our Delag routing. But yeah, due to all of these fast travels, you're losing the daytime damage bonus. But that means we don't need to manipulate time of day in other places. And we aren't interested in the Niskaru spawns here. We do get a ton of free fate, but it's just taking so much time to loot the Niskaru since they're spawning on opposite sides. And the experience itself is not really justifying the time it takes for the fate shifting animation. That's why we kind of skip that. Gloam Thicket is offering a bit of an easier approach to the Tuatha that are spawning there. So you can start shooting at them from a convenient angle and then just trigger the stone and then fast travel away. We want to have Helmgard as our second to last spawn, since that one is giving us an Ethene Shrine with only a detour of 7 seconds. That's a lot less than like an extra Isa Shrine detour would be. So that is kind of a reason why we are saving time on this segment compared to the Korgan Hold portion. In fact, we have so much damage output that we don't really care about the Therden and Enodon Shrine. I messed up my movement input a little after the fast travel, but was able to fix that without walking to Cradle of Summer again. So we do have the Athene Shrine now that will last us through all of Ural Tusk. I got a pretty high level spawn in this area as well, with the Balgans and all of the Barghasts. You're not supposed to do like a double roll here. I should have focused on just entering Reckoning mode out of the running animation. The Tyrant takes like extra bit of damage, and you're better off fate shifting some enemy that doesn't take a long time for the animation itself. And you want to lose aggro here, but then I missed like arrows and I got like a weird Lianchi spawn. That is a bit unfortunate. It's not bad to get some extra encounters here as long as you can kill them off. Got very unfortunate with the Essence of Fate drops though. So the bonus fate you get from the overworld encounters do help here. And it's a bit of a trade-off whether you wanted to use the potion when entering Reckoning mode or when fate shifting, because you can enter Reckoning mode and kill a lot on enemies accidentally, especially if you have other things going on, such as Balin Shrine or Envenomed Edge. But yeah, otherwise the potion will definitely extend beyond the first Niscaro encounter. And this one and the upcoming Niscaro spawn can have only one each, and that means you're a bit low on fate, and you either have to kill like a lot of the rats and then hope you're not getting screwed there, or you have to do extra attacks that yield fate, such as Shadow Flare or harpooning something. And that also wastes a lot of time, which is why if you're killing something like a champion in the plains of Arathel, you will still get awarded a bit of fate. But yeah, if your level difference is very high, the fate reward will be a lot lower, so things like normal enemies or brownies or whatever, they would not give a significant amount. And we use the potion here so it lasts through all of the fight. And it's like free to get their bonus XP as well. This was like rather bad of a Tilara spawn, but it can actually be worse, so nothing to go freaky about. We're fate shifting the second wave because that allows us to have one extra Blood Hunter in the fate shifting bonus XP. And then Azaghal is a forced one. I accidentally rolled away. That was a bit of a weird directional input. Especially if you get many drops, you won't be able to see whether there are any essences of fate. But yeah, I got some essences here at least. But yeah, if you have to scroll in order to check whether you have essences, that may also take some time. Or you can just loot the essences and then hit escape to leave the view. But that's a lot to process in a short time. And yeah, we're going straight to Rathir so we can skip the conversation with General Tilera.
Students of magic, masters of spells.
And then we're heading to Melsenshire. The cutscene that takes you to Melsenshire will set time of day to 6 p.m. So if you've been off the cycle beforehand and had to adjust, this will equalize it and set it to a predestined time. So from there on it's consistent again.
The burns for all. That ship sails tomorrow at dawn.
Ships are loading.
And since 6 p.m. would put us into nighttime for pretty much any fight, and we do have only fights left at this point,
This is all the help we get.
we're using it to our advantage and
Not exactly.
just
We can kill.
do that repeatedly for the shopping adjustment. So here we're buying something with 1 epic socket and 2 utility sockets. Okay, and now we can actually equip the Dreadscale armor as well as the ring we just bought. And now we fast travel to Edessa. That makes it pretty much 6 a.m. but it'll definitely be 6 a.m. by the time you have the first fight encounter. And the level up is like to increase our finesse skill so we can equip the armor, and to scale our alchemy level up to 5 so we can craft fate potions later.
Fancy chat? Please answer.
It's technically not necessary to stay Seeker if you would do another level up, but since that takes a lot of time and you wouldn't be able to equip the armor if you weren't Seeker, it just turned out to be more efficient like this. But if you're working with a lower damage output setup or whatever, you'd probably want to do another level up later.
Yes? For you now.
There aren't many useful skills at this point to invest into besides the alchemy portion. So, like, there won't be any selling of items or buying where mercantile would benefit. We've already figured out the sage crafting things. We're crafting an epic gem here with the remaining 2 shards, and we're socketing everything into our armor.
Yes.
And we don't need to equip anything else after this point anymore. So this is pretty much the final equip portion. What's relevant about this armor as opposed to the Trollhide armor we could buy and equip way earlier is the epic gem slot. That one allows us to socket 10% extra experience bonus.
Yes.
And that, along with the ring of, like, the experience bonus, the Noble Span of Growth that we bought earlier in Ymera,
You did it.
But up.
is pretty efficient for us. You should try to not block Octien. I'm using the chakrams for the first fight because of the targeting not going well otherwise. But yeah, the remaining fights do fairly well if you're just spamming bow projectiles. And similar to what we did in Saltpool Caverns, we don't really need any sort of potion here. It's not that much experience.
Even though you regard. What's needed?
It's what is map with Octiana. You carry.
So now we're heading back to Isa for the shrines. Depending on what type of damage setup you're using, Helmguard may be the faster option. There aren't many fights where the third shrine would make a difference between, for example, using 2 arrows versus 3.
What is it? Steal your... You and... Our hunt for...
All this work just to have our arrows rained.
Charge!
You're pretty much getting a full fate meter anyway, just from the forest encounters. But there could be like convenient enemies to kill.
Destroy the supports!
Chakrams or Shadow Flare work fairly efficiently at taking care of that.
Get moving!
But yeah, the aiming of the ladder supports are still strange. So here I'm just wasting some time by killing enemies, but it's mostly because the supports don't become vulnerable as early. And you should be level 14 by now. It's not really worth to loot the Tuatha, but if they're in your way anyway, you may as well grab that for free. But there aren't high chances to get successful harvests out of that. And you may want to kill like some Tuatha here. That way you'll prevent any issues with fate shifting the threshers in when you're entering Drowned Forest. I barely made it there on the cycle, but I don't know what determines which cycle you're on either. So if you want the bonus XP, you can wait to kill the summoner. And don't spam arrows here. This is like the easiest way to softlock the game by just hitting Baylor twice in quick succession with this damage build. And yeah, the potion will last all the way from the troll encounter to this fight. And the shrines will last way into Gloricon.
Watch out for those red-eyed bastards.
And we're like roughly at 15.5 levels now. So halfway to level 16.
You! Stop! State your business.
The spawns in Gloricon will affect a lot. So you should be either keeping track or going with the safe option later, and that would be like taking a shrine, but I'll explain that when we get there. So this is just some sort of discovery section that is combining it with the first quest we're having here of destroying the crystal chantries. But yeah, since we're at max fate already, we don't need to spawn an Tuniscaro with the cutscene here, nor kill the Mergen spawning to the left. So that is fine. And yeah, you should keep track of how many threshers you kill here if you're, or check your experience after getting it. And yeah, try to not fate shift your thresh. So I'm getting decently into level 16. And you'll also have the XP bonus. I also have like a different strat of shooting the chantries and crystals from like one fixed position, so you don't have to walk around. But that position is different for each chantry and can be a bit annoying. And yeah, the second thresh, like at this point, is very convenient to loot. The other one is relatively far out of the way. And if you get a thresh spawn here, of course, that's free experience you should take. But in general, I can't recommend going for the first thresh mob you're encountering. And if you get like a thresh at the final area where you're fate shifting, you should just wait for aggro to go away and the loot to appear. Not backtrack there later, that would be slower. So after discovering Odie's camp, we got the like second chantry on our way, and we'll use the Athene Shrine for all of that. I often decide to kill the enemy spawning there just to not like suffer an attack or whatever. You can technically kill some of the enemies here, but they're only underlings, so they aren't really paying off and you have to spam many arrows to get some XP out of it. There should be like at least 1 or 2 thrashes that you can kill here, so that's good.
Mortals stole the secrets of magic.
Don't forget to kill all of the champions. I had issues reaching Alpha Camp as my fast travel location. And I actually got warped back here, which is really silly. I screwed up the timing there, so I got already like dragged in to the conversation. But yeah, you can advance time of day by fast traveling to Alpha Camp 4 times. That will make it morning now. I've fast traveled an extra time, which screws with my time of day. When I was doing the run, I did not know how to adjust or which type of consequences that would have. I'm using the XP booster here already, because this is a captain and a champion, which gives me a decent amount of bonus XP, as opposed to like getting the first Tuatha Jotun encounter into the potion, which is usually less than that. And yeah, here we're fate shifting all of them together. Since I got a lot of essences of fate from the Thresh earlier, I didn't want to loot anything else, so I just fate shifted the Niskaru Hunter on the way out and didn't have to wait for any looting options to appear. And yeah, we're close to level 17 now. And the Athene Shrine will last until the discovery of Foes Hearth. That was a bit sloppy, but yeah. Back to Melsenshire now.
There are worse allies to have than the Winterfell.
The Lienshi spawn on the left will either feature 1 or 2 of them. And that's a convenient source of experience as well. You may just have to like get a decent position to fire from. There's always a Thresh here. I wouldn't recommend grabbing the Lore Stone. Because it's only worth it if it allows you to skip the extra fast travel for the Helmguard experience shrine that we're routing in after Foe's Hearth now. So the idea is to do Danistar Isle under the influence of the Athene Shrine for bonus experience.
As the Aelan ship, we will meet again in the shadowed tree on the Caelan coast.
I wanted to check my time here, and it was very confusing, and I wanted to check whether I had the actual amount of essences that I wanted, because I thought I miscounted at some point. But yeah, that was good.
Through the woods and mountain field, through the hollows and green meadow, through the summer, winter, day and night.
So the difference is I opted to not get an Athene Shrine here, and that puts me a bit at the mercy of enemy spawns, and that I'm not killing enemies when entering Reckoning mode on accident,
But enough. Just make sure he lives. I believe
because
our
then
new
you
friend is
only
a
get
discovered
normal
farmer.
experience out of it, not the amplified one. And due to the multiplicative stacking,
Stay behind me.
that
No
does
one
make a
cannot-
significant
Looks like we've
difference.
made a few enemies in the process.
We're triggering Aelin's conversation
Just as
and
used
the opening thing,
Here is the same
and then try to kill as many of the Sons of Lass as possible.
Follow me.
They're only underlings, but at least you get a decent amount of experience
Sounds like
since
our
they're
left
level
is
20 now.
I'm sure he'd be happy to help whoever saves him. Careful, or we'll get trapped up there too. Here's what I'll hold this staircase. Move!
I'm usually hugging the wall on the left a little more. I did not expect to get wrecked by the falling rubble there, but
A new source of power?
well, I've learned my lesson.
Nonsense is this? If anything had come in here, my detection spells would have...
So we're just trying to lose aggro here and open the gate.
Don't care who you are. Get up!
That Son of Lass was really sliding across the floor.
This is what I get for using all those soldiers.
So the Fair Gorta Sentinels are the only minions here that aren't underlings. And in this room, at the final fight, there'll be the Lianshis as well. I did not kill the second enemy on the other side of the room. That was too far away. That was a bit unfortunate. So I got less XP from this encounter than I wanted to.
When you get up here, try not to look too...
And yeah, that's why I also don't like having Envenomed Edge active, because you can kill enemies fairly easily if you crit on them or like get an unfortunate attack off. For some reason I did not adjust my walking direction based on his position on the map.
The lads are here. Pull them off while I try to stop the flow of energy to the well. Ignore the rumbling. Focus on the lads.
I did not get all of the enemies on the other side. It was a bit sloppy. So we're already level 18. And you can carry the experience potion into that fight.
Oh, but might just help in his.
Then the reward
going,
of
and remember,
the
don't go near
quest here will put you roughly 20 to 30% towards level 19, which we want when entering Alabastra. So since I had like that extra fast travel towards Odie's camp, towards Alpha camp earlier, I tried to adjust things now, so I wouldn't have to fight these enemies during nighttime. If you're grabbing an Athene shrine before Danister Tower, it'll last until now or further, and that just accumulates to a decent bunch of experience. If you're getting a captain tier enemy here, that one's fairly efficient to kill. Again, it may not be worth it to grab these lore stones on the way unless you can get them somewhat for free. This next encounter can also have a very high amount of experience versus something that's rather negligible. So if you can keep track of all of these things in your head, you may want to risk not going for an Athene shrine for Danister. But if you screwed it up, then you'll have to do like adjustment things. And it may just be faster to wait for one of these enemies to attack so they won't dodge you.
Did you hear that?
I decided, because I was low in experience,
The hunter runs.
to
The hunter runs.
get the lore stone there, and then I was a little undecided of how things went, and then I screwed up the movement towards him, so I didn't get the skip of his animation.
Thanks for damn it. This can't end here.
So yeah, the run was falling a little apart at that point, but I just wanted to finish a run that did not softlock.
This took a little long. You see, I'm impressed.
So as a backup now I decided to go to Isa, grab shrines, and then continue with that. The Athene shrine in this section does not provide as much experience as the one in Danister. So yeah, and it's still better to just grab a Helmguard shrine.
Everyone says you're a hero.
So it wouldn't really pay off to have the third shrine here.
Turn back or die. I made a note, of course.
And this is a free lore stone, so you should grab it anyway.
It was a time of change.
You don't need to farm anything such as Fate or whatever.
The bones of the earth.
What you want to do is, he's like on a set timer. You want to parry his attack right before he's talking to you.
A new turmoil fomented.
Now. Enough.
And if you did that right, you can kill him in one arrow less than usual. And you want to not roll to the door immediately. Otherwise, you'll force a conversation with Agarth, who has not yet spawned in that place and will try to return to his previous position. And that is quite inconvenient. Like, you'll just be locked in one place there. I'm trying to kill every enemy here because I was not very high on experience. And I still want to reach level 19, so it's mostly a matter of which spawn you're getting here. And the big difference is whether you're getting overlords in the Tuatha spawn or not. But that's pretty hard to tell, like without looking at the XP reward. But this one had, I don't know, maybe even 2 overlords. Well, no, I'm using the Athene Shrine, which I'm usually not using, so it may have been 1.
If you would be so, we are waiting.
Well, one thing that was convenient was that the Inadun Shrine gave me a lot higher chance of getting crits, and that made me like one-shot this guy, or woman, I guess. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There isn't much merit to it. Like, you can just spam arrows, and 2 arrows that target Myrna will actually be enough to kill. So it's not a big deal if you're not hitting level 19 by now, but you want to be fairly close,
No,
otherwise it'll
I'll
be
see you
very
in Alabastra.
inconvenient. If you're having the necessary amount of Essences of Fate already, it's simple enough to craft the potions right away. But yeah, of course, like with the shrine adjustment, I did make it to level 19. If you're not level 19 right now, you'll get the experience from Camp Moondown and discovering, what is it called? Ariat Camp. And then you can grab another lore stone next to where Aelin Shear and Ventrinio are chilling. It is not efficient to fight enemies with the damage reduction going on, because that also applies to your piercing damage. So the highest damage output you'd get would be from fighting with the chakrams. And they're still like a decent base attack. They're that like tier of weapon if you're trying to be efficient, so it would certainly be easier.
I'm impressed. Aga,
Also, don't force a conversation with him,
so you've got
because he won't have the interaction options that way. So it's certainly easier to get the Helmgard Shrine before Danistar than trying to fight other things. I was checking my in-game time of day here, because I was wondering, with the screwed up fate fast travels, where I'll be ending up with things, or where I should adjust time of day. I thought, yeah, it doesn't take ages to run to House of Vengeance, but it would have been okay to just advance time of day here, or rather at Ariat Camp. You can use something such as Arrow Storm ability to kill many enemies that are grouped up, but it won't guarantee that you'll kill all of them. You don't really need to kill that many enemies. It's ideal to kill strong enemies, because they'll give a lot more relative fate than the weaker enemies, such as Tuatha or regular Fairgorta and stuff like that. So trolls are pretty good, for example. I think overlords are the most efficient ones because they're captain tier and they only require 1 arrow. But yeah, you can grab this lore stone here. That one is pretty much free on the way.
With horrors, screams, and ghostly face, we leave blood in a
So what I usually do is I enter reckoning mode at that mob without having to kill any of them. So they're immediately in the fate shift thing. And then I can... This is a bit of a weird encounter thing here. Like, it's more efficient to use chakrams there, but the sitting animation prevents you from lowering their lowering their health to 0. But yeah, it's not that big of a deal. I prefer killing the Frost Champion here, just because you don't have to dodge stuff that way. And we still want to get our Reckoning meter back up again when we're hitting the Curve of Vengeance. So using an XP potion on the Desert Infight is ideal, because that takes care of pretty much most of the level up requirement between 19 and 20. And yeah, I should have just like adjusted time of day here, because I had a hunch that it would be kind of bad now, or like at least until I reach Amora. And then I suddenly noticed like, hey, I was critting and not doing anything. So instead of running back, losing aggro and fast traveling, I just loaded the quick save I just did seconds ago.
Come on.
So with that time of day adjustment, it'll be daytime again, and that is good enough for the remainder of the category. But the optimized route just has it like maybe somewhere between noon and afternoon. I'm killing the priests here so I won't have to dodge them, but also because I did like an unoptimal fate shift that I hadn't optimized by then. But yeah, as I said, like going for the overlords is very efficient time-wise. Trolls have a lot of armor, so the best way I found was to use a charge shot and then a regular arrow shot to kill them, but that's still taking some time, and you can kill 2 overlords in the same time fairly quickly. 2 overlords reward less fate for the kill, though, so it depends on whether you're optimizing for XP or fate. And sometimes you just don't have enough overlords. Yeah, this is pretty good if you're low on fate. Just kill these 2 and it's fixed. And that's also fixing my XP curve now, so we'll hit level 20 before House of Vengeance. And we'll also hit the fate meter. So yeah, there's a Prismir troll spawning at the
Thanks for giving an old. Damn it! Right now. Stay on guard.
There's a dungeon to the left now, and you can like not fight this guy since you don't need the XP and you don't need the fate. This time there was a second troll here, this was me like misjudging my experience thing. Like I hit the level 20 thing, but I thought I needed more experience. Like I misjudged the Curve Vengeance portion. That was just an error in my calculations, and I did not have a lot of practice with a lot of these route adjustments, and I just wanted to YOLO the remaining route. After like going through it successfully once, so this is just a very unoptimized part. And this is also like where I lost a bunch of seconds overall, because I had to fight enemies again to get my fate meter up. And I could have just not done that either. Like, if you're not fate shifting the Curve Vengeance, but you're killing other mobs, that isn't bad either. But you'll have to know what you're doing. Like, you can't just YOLO some of these things. But honestly, you'll get to fight a lot of enemies for free in Bale. So just using something like Shadow Flare on a group of Tuatha and then spamming arrows is pretty efficient. But yeah, you don't want to kill all of these enemies here. It's just wasting so much time. I think there's always 2 overlords here. And yeah, I would have not needed to kill that troll. So that is just like more mistakes on my part. I wanted to get rid of the priest for the sake of not having to dodge things. But then the dagger wielder attacked me and I had to dodge anyway. So sad. So yeah, no need to get like a shrine or other stuff here. If you're fate shifting this guy, like you'll see what's happening with my XP bar. I'm halfway through 22 by now, and I only need to hit level 21 by the end of the next area. So that is where the miscalculation came from. If you are aware of your equips, like that you're having all of the rings equipped and whatnot, that's fine. I was checking my time of day here to make sure that I wouldn't have to adjust anything else. Usually I'd use this place to
I'm right behind you.
like make the detour to Camp Moondown.
Fighting at your side, just like the old days.
That would allow me to craft the potions had I not crafted them by now. And yeah, I kind of realized that I didn't need any more experience now. So I was just trying to avoid killing stuff unnecessarily. And this route is not fate shifting get flow. You can technically do that, but I don't think it saves enough time. And you wouldn't fate shift him, you'd like exit the reckoning mode or let it like run out by itself. If you can apply bleeding status effects to the troll here, that would also be pretty nice, but it doesn't matter. Like, that troll mob is mandatory to kill before the barrier goes down. And this is the other mandatory mob you have to fight in order to proceed. But this one is very short, just consisting of 4 enemies. So here's the first conversation with Aelin Shear. shield teleport you
A lot
back,
has
but if
changed
you
since you can't count on
didn't
what
have
you don't want.
any sort of aggro beforehand, I just checked to make sure that my time of day was good.
You don't understand, do you? The power of Tyrann has rewritten the fate of
I started
this
doing that a
world.
little early.
Lend
I got a
me
crit
your
there, which was
power.
really convenient. Otherwise you'd have to spam arrows to kill Getflow and his
If
projection.
Gadflow isn't here, whatever. We're close. This way. Tirnock is held captive.
But
deep
yeah,
in the
that's pretty
Amazon,
much
but her prison is weakening
the
by
route
minute.
for now. You just try to kill the remaining enemies as fast as possible. And the Tirnock fight is also fairly straightforward with a bow.
I can feel Tirnock's eyes upon us.
You used your power well.
Yeah, if there was like a free shrine,
She just tore out
it
apart the fates
would
and
not make
stolen
that
from
much of a
Tirnock.
difference in the Getflow fight.
An
So yeah, it's not paying off to go to Isa for these sections for a damage increase.
We cannot let Gadflow free Tirnock.
Alabaster mostly consists of distributed fights. There's a lot of them, but they're always spaced out, like spread throughout the whole area.
Don't listen. You're the only one who has the power to stop her.
When you first came to Death Row, and you were so weak, play your role. Play your role.
You chose this? What does she mean by that?
I gave you freedom, and now you have freedom. Mine.
So here's the final conversation.
Only you. But that leaves. If
Maybe
go.
I said that already
Let's
in
go.
Bale, but this is it for real. And I
There's
made
no
a
turning
save
back
here,
now.
which will be explained later, or like very soon. So I had like an estimate of how long it takes from that point to the end of the game,
It's time to
and
choose
the
your
recording
fate.
will go a little further. So what may happen? Okay, so my fate was drained. I have 3 potions, so I don't need to fight the third phase by myself. And here, a single arrow is good enough, you don't need to charge anything. And yeah, you can either do normal arrow shots. I messed up the trigger though. Or you can use a shadow flare, it's also pretty good for aiming. Alright, so that was like me finishing the category at that point, but what's going on? The timer is continuing.
But you're here. She left some kind of note that I try as I might. But no matter. Go,
Is
my
this a new game plus speedrun now?
Good morning, sir.
Alright, so I promised I'd reveal a lot of things going on. And
Greetings.
the idea behind all of this was that I made this special Fateless 6 discovery route that would suit a sagecrafting only category. And that means I could just skip the blacksmithing portion, I could skip the trips to Dyden Hill, and I could skip other trips. But it meant I'd have to do extra shopping trips to Ymir and Rathir for the shards. And I realized that that was a pretty viable route, considering how much bonus experience you'd get, how much damage output you'd get, like way more than the old routes for any percent with DLC or without. And that if you're skipping like several ESA trips and you only take like 4 minutes more during the discovery section to get everything set up, then that's quite efficient. And then I had a hunch that this would beat the old routes.
Excuse me.
So I thought I could just set that up as a bit of a joke submission.
If you go.
Okay, so I didn't really explain that many things, but so I've accepted some quests now, and one of the quests requires me to get antelope heads. 4. I just wanted to make sure that it's morning now, so I could do this dungeon at a reasonable pace, since this scales to my level all the way, and I am level 22 now, so the enemies do have a ton of health. If you've watched a House of Ballas run before, you kind of know what's happening. Otherwise, I'm just trying to proceed the quests here. But yeah, what are these quests about? Well, the first quest I got from Penry Kell in Yolwan was called Reprisal Reprised. And it's about reenacting a Fey quest called, I don't know, the Troll and the Maiden or something like that. But the point is that the Troll has a ring and the Maiden wants the ring, and the Maiden wants to be saved from the Troll, so I'm playing the hero. But in order to make the Troll appear, I'll have to prepare some trophies, and that is why I had to kill the antelopes. But yeah, I'll like refer to that again when we are finishing the quest. I just did some preparation of it as of now, and this quest is unrelated to what I'm actually trying to do. It's a preparation to make me reach another quest later. So you may have noticed I wanted to get a 2:14:41, but since I screwed up the final potion at the Tyrnok fight, even with fairly decent like mashing for the final fate shift, I only ended up with a 2:14:43, and I thought it would be like more fun to have it as a like 14:41 thing. And in order to emphasize that this was like a bit of a fishy submission, I thought it would be easier to submit it as a wrong time, and I didn't want to submit it as a lower time. Like, that would not be acceptable because it would be like false. So making yourself worse is maybe not a nice thing, but I just thought it would be a joke to submit it as a 3:14 instead. And that would also put me at the lowest spot of the leaderboards, so I wasn't trying to like fish for any better position or whatever. And just like give another little hint that this is not a serious submission. In the same way, I also exaggerated a little with the title of the YouTube video featuring 3 exclamation marks. Most people who know me wouldn't expect that to happen, I guess. Like, I'm not usually going crazy over things, especially not something like a 215. So yeah, right now I'm just trying to get my 4th antelope. And that one went flying really high. I'm just finishing like this quest here. I was just doing some preparation thing. This is not like an optimal section at all. A lot of this was done on the fly. Like, I kind of timed this type of thing to get an idea of what I'm doing. But I didn't know which finishing time I'd get in the normal playthrough of any percent. So filling like this time until the final portion is pretty hard. And actually, I was talking about the 2:14:43. That is something we haven't watched in the current video as of now. The 1:53:55 was like not trying to waste time during the fight to get a specific timing at the end. So yeah, that was just kind of pointing ahead of what's going to happen then. And this was not my first attempt of recording this. I had earlier attempts. One of them was soft locking at Baylor because I connected 2 arrows in quick succession, and then you're losing control of the character and not a single like key or mouse action works with the game. So that's like a forced restarting the game thing. And I didn't make a save prior to that. But yeah, it's weird if you have to start the whole game from anew, wait through all the loading screens and then continue. I was just checking that my time of day is fine, but I didn't care about it that much since you can also stealth your way past some of the fights. So this is still just preparation for what I'm trying to do. I guess this made it a little harder to figure out the theme that was going on by now. And I'll keep you guessing for a little longer until it's maybe more obvious on what I'm trying to do.
It's about time. Still, onward.
Like, ignore all of the House of Ballots quests that are happening until right now. Those are just preparation things. And the other softlock I had was because I forgot to destroy a crystal in one of the chantries and then fast traveled away. It was a bit strange how that all happened. Like, I was running around the chantry to kill an enemy, and then the crystal was on the opposite side, so I didn't notice it really. And I thought I had got that already, but yeah, that was just me being sloppy and not paying attention. Speaking of which, I also ran away without opening that door. So yeah, this is a boss fight here, and it's not too bad, but I thought I could just fate shift to make it faster. And I could have also killed all of the other enemies. And I don't want to get extra experience here.
Well, don't keep moving. The king has... Off we go then.
So yeah, this is just pretty standard stuff for House of Ballots categories. Not much to see here in terms of speed tech or whatever. So I'm handing in the quest now to get to the quest that I actually want to complete. And I was just wondering, like, what would be the most creative way to spend the time? And at first I thought, like, maybe there are quests that are just particularly entertaining. Maybe there are quests that are, like, underappreciated, or something that's weird, like getting all of TwoL's collection and whatnot. But that would also require me to do a mission, like a quest in preparation of that. And yeah, that's not really paying off. So I decided to go with this theme instead, since it would fit the April 1st thing best. So here we have Brutal Contract. And the other quest I'm about to get, or I'm currently on, involving the House of Ballots, is 2 Knights and a Troll. And the other quest with Penry Kell is called Reprisal Reprised, but is also featuring a troll. And this Brutal Contract quest requires you to kill 5 mountain trolls that are scattered throughout Hexy. So this is what I'm going after right now. It's nighttime, but we don't really care. This is a fairly low level area. It's base level 4. So the enemy health is negligible, even for the champions. And I should have killed this guy last. That was me not paying attention to what I wanted to do. Because I want to discover Sandor Caverns. But the upside is I'm spawning an extra troll here. This is not part of the quest, but I thought for fun I could kill this guy as well. And yeah, I could also use other things such as Shadow Flare. I'd have to run up close though. And yeah, even in this case it would have been faster to just fast travel to Star Camp and run back. But it's not bad to go this way either. Like, it's fairly similar. And I wanted to get rid of aggro here so I can loot the fake Heron. That's part of the quest. And we're doing a cutscene skip. And I'm also using that to advance time of day, so it's daytime. And I can kill things very easily. So the quest is about gathering the fake Herons again from like the different parts that are stolen, that were stolen from the House of Ballots library. And those are the same that are featured on the lore stones in Hexy throughout. So there's 5 lore stones and 5 fake Herons that we're picking up in the story. But we didn't grab the lore stones throughout Hexy. Like, the time didn't suffice for that. In hopes of losing aggro faster, I decided to kill those. It's probably similar in time overall. So this is the troll appearing in the story. And we were the two knights, and I have to loot the Faker off of him.
That was. And thank goodbye.
And that concludes this quest. Now I'm handing in the other quest to finish that off. Like, now we've driven out the trolls out of the area, and now he can be a happy Warsworn person, reporting back and having avenged his friend. Here I'm finishing off this quest to kill that troll, and that kind of concludes the preparation we did and the quests we were aiming to complete. I did like choose a special file name for this, but this wasn't very related to April Fool's things. It was just an interesting reference to some people who have done the Warsworn category before, or maybe know a bit like lore. So now we've finished this quest, and I thought it was more fitting to not finish this quest, but there's like a special curse breaking word that we're looking for here, but we're just listening to the lore. And this story is about how a troll thought he got transformed into a human and then like, wreaks havoc and then gets defeated by the two knights. And it's just like another heroic tale. The ballads Fae are liking to reenact, and it's kind of like similar to me trolling with all these random quests, and then once I'm done with all of the trolling, I'm listening to the second one, which has that spell to, or like rather dispelling words to use on Tenwa.
It hated its difference from the norm and wished to shed its current form.
And yeah, now that we've dealt with all the trolls, we are also back in our human form, taking care of the any percent duties.
I shall grant your wish and make you so. You are a human now, she cackled.
Yes, so now that I'm human, I can load this state that I've made earlier and finish off the game. Of course, I can't finish the game twice on the same save. Like if I went back to Amethyst, it would be blocked off. So I had to just reload this and do this again. I also decided to include a longer walk here, so it's easier to just look at the end of the video and see me fighting regularly and not becoming suspicious because my timer was advancing all this time. But yeah, this is just the fight again, and me trying to get to 1441. That was hard, apparently. So, about the file name, it is called Fair and Mighty. And this is because Dokalfar male name is defaulting to Kerwin, and Kerwin is the name of Gwyn Enwy's father, which is kind of strange to... like, I was trying to waste some time here as well to get like the 214 41, but that was hard to hit. But yeah, when Enwy is talking about her dad in the Isle of Eamon quest, and she's making like a reference, which I'll add after the video now. So thanks for watching and have a good one.
Imagine imagine. Kerwin, fair and mighty, stood there and gazed out on the ocean.